Assalamu alaikum, Pak Bangla Connect. This is Sadia Sattar, and we are here again with Mr. John F. Danilowicz. He's a former diplomat who served both in Bangladesh and Pakistan. He's from the US. And today, when we're speaking to him, it's basically a tiny tribute to Usman Hadi. And after his martyrdom, you can see in the background of John, you can see the funeral, a huge one, and the Bangladeshi youth, elderly, everybody is paying him a tribute. He was a hero. And there are mass protests going on. There's a lot going on in Bangladesh. And we thought because Mr. John has an extensive knowledge about Bangladesh has been working on human rights for a very long time now. And we just thought that we can discuss how things are panning out because anything happening in Bangladesh and specifically the kind of I'd say news we're seeing on the internet, everybody's concerned because it's in the region, and of course, Pakistan is in the region too. So that's also my concern that I thought that we can have some insight from John. So hi, John. Thank you so much for giving time to Pak Bangla Connect again.
Yeah, my pleasure, Saudi. It's great to see you again. And I'm missing Islamabad, but happily home and getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah, we're very, optimistic that you're going to come again and really looking forward. And I hope you have a great Christmas too. Well, unfortunately, this is not the time. It's a morning time because we're both very close to Bangladesh and been, talking about Bangladeshi issues, particularly after 2024. And just recently, we saw a young man who lost his life, was a hero of many, and we can just see the funeral. Nobody can count how many people are there. How is it going there? I mean, there's a lot that I want to ask, but initially, I'd like to ask you that what is the sentiment and how do you see things panning out? Because there's a lot of anger. We saw the media houses like Pratham Alo and Daily Star being demolished, and a lot more things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so as you know, I follow Bangladesh from afar, even though I was fortunate to have the opportunity to visit twice in this past year. And at times the distance is a disadvantage because, I'm missing the feeling on the ground. But I think sometimes some distance is an
Mhm.
advantage because it gives one perspective. So things are, um, very emotional right now in Dhaka, again, particularly for the millions who admired Osman Hadi and mourn his loss. But at the same time, I think, if you look at the big picture, the picture of Bangladesh that's being painted in some quarters doesn't reflect reality. I mean, the bottom line is Bangladesh is in the final phase of a transition that began with the departure of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on August 5th, 2024. That this phase is going to end on February 12th, 2026, when the country has the first free and fair elections it's had since 2008. So at the same time that people mourn the loss of Osman Hadi, everyone is looking toward the elections and the future that's going to come. So those who tried to silence Hadi's voice um, have only amplified it, as has been seen by the reaction. And those who have tried to derail Bangladesh's transition to democracy have only strengthened the desire and the commitment of the Bangladeshi people to write their own destiny.
Right, absolutely, and that's very visible. Um, who are those? Because there are Bangladeshi people, youth in particular. We've seen X spaces, we've seen vlogs. People are out loud calling out uh, India. Is it an
Yeah.
accusation? Is it a rumor?
Right. So, there's yet been no formal determination of who's responsible for Hadi's killing. There's lots of speculation, as there always is. Um, What I would say is that what's less, well, put it this way. While we don't know who Hadi's killer was, we know what they were trying to accomplish. Again, they were trying to silence him. They were trying to intimidate people. They were trying to create chaos and they were trying to derail the transition. So, what that means is that we know the motive, even if we don't know the identity. And what people want is an investigation, which the government has pledged. They want to hold responsible, those who committed this horrific act, wherever they are, whether they be in Bangladesh or whether they have fled for another jurisdiction.
Right. So, okay, fine. That's a very calculated and great response, I'd say. But then again, taking you back there, we have seen that there are a few people who are not just trolls, the veterans from Indian Army, in particular, have been threatening also. Any comments on that? And it's your choice, your prerogative if you want to
Yeah,
respond
no,
to that.
no, 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 sure. So again, I think, the first thing that's become clear both before and since, Osman Hadi's killing, is that many of those who are opposing Bangladesh's transition are linked to the former ruling party, the Awami League. And we know that the leadership of the Awami League, former Prime Minister Hasina, many of her former ministers, many of her former leaders, many who have been charged in having committed crimes in Bangladesh, have sought refuge in India. And they continue to use that safe haven to attempt to destabilize. There's a lot of misunderstanding about Bangladesh, willful or otherwise, within India. And there certainly has been a war of words that's taken place. Um, that has been supercharged in recent days. People have taken statements by individuals in Bangladesh and blown them out of proportion. So I think at this time, one of the real challenges for Bangladesh is that these elements that are trying to destabilize the country continue to do so, and they do so from places where they can find support.
Right. Okay. So, what risks does this unrest pose for South Asian geopolitical equilibrium if each domestic crisis is seen through the lens of cross border blame, accusation, or real terrorism?
So, there's two dimensions to this. So internally for Bangladesh, there's always a concern about, the activities of foreign actors, right? There's always looking abroad for those who will come and rescue Bangladesh or those who will try to influence events. The lesson of August 2024 is that the people of Bangladesh will write their own destiny. Now, at the same time, for the current government of Bangladesh and future governments, Bangladesh exists within a certain neighborhood, within a certain region. So Bangladesh wants to have good relationships with all of its neighbors. During the previous
Mhm.
government, the Bangladesh's relationships internationally were not balanced. The relationship with India was given a priority above all others, and in some ways to the exclusion of all others. Once the interim government came in, they began a process of rebalancing Bangladesh's relationship. And obviously, those who had enjoyed preferential treatment during the Hasina regime, um, didn't accept this or weren't pleased by this change. But what I would say is that, you know, what's important now is what happens through the elections and afterwards. And my sense is that any government in Bangladesh is going to have to continue the trajectory that was started by the interim government, in part because no foreign policy can survive if it's not based on domestic public support. And clearly, the people of Bangladesh have made it abundantly clear to all that they want to see Bangladesh have a different kind of approach both to the region and the world. And one in which, Bangladesh is able to pursue its interests, pursue its destiny at the same time, that the rest of the region does the same.
Right. And I think there's this very important thing. We've spoken about South Asia, but still, I'd like you to elaborate it a little further because since 2024, as you've said that there is this diplomatic change in Bangladesh as far as the neighboring countries are concerned, and the ties developing between Pakistan and Bangladesh are very evident, and we've seen that it's not being taken that positively from India. So, how do you see things panning out now when we see people are out loud communicating about it? We see primetime hosts talking about it. We see the policymakers, giving their own perceptions and apprehensions of things. How do you see, as South Asian expert, how do you see things are panning out?
Yeah, so one of the things that's been surprising and frankly disappointing to me is the amount of misunderstanding, again, willful or otherwise, that exists in India. And you certainly see this, play out in the media, play out in discussions between people who should know better. And the picture that's being painted of Bangladesh doesn't conform with reality. Again, I've worked on Bangladesh for 3 decades now. I know the country well. I've been back twice over the past year. And the picture that's being painted outside, particularly in India of Bangladesh, doesn't conform with reality. So, for example, even if you look at the events following Osman Hadi's, death, there was a mob that went out of control in Dhaka and burned two media houses, Daily Star and Protamalo, which were accused falsely, I think, of being too close to India. This was regrettable. It shouldn't have happened. The government should have done more to prevent it. But this is not happening throughout Bangladesh. It's not as if Bangladesh is on fire. It's not as if mobs are ruling the country. There was another incident, again, a tragic incident in which a member of the Hindu minority community was killed in Mymensingh district. Again, a horrible, horrific action that shouldn't have happened. The government should investigate fully and hold those responsible. But that's not to say that this is something that's happening widespread in Bangladesh. So again, the image that's being painted of Bangladesh, that the country is in the grips of Islamic extremism, that the mob is ruling, that the country is in flames, that it's a failed state. Again, none of this conforms with reality. And I think the people of Bangladesh, as they process Osman Hadi's death and prepare for election, will demonstrate that Bangladesh is moving in a positive direction and that much of this false image that's being painted is being done with a motivation.
Right. So, hopefully things are going to settle. I don't know how soon, but one more question before we conclude our conversation with John, and that is, who do you predict? I mean, because you've been meeting people, and approximately all the cadres, pretty much all the fraternities other than diplomatic fraternity, even you're very active with Bangladeshi youth on social media platforms as well. Who do you see winning? We saw Jamaat-e-Islami winning, an election before, and we saw that was a landslide victory. So now, who do you see in upcoming elections? Who is possibly coming to be the new government,
Yeah. So
government rather
unfortunately for
government?
yeah, sure, sure. Unfortunately for Bangladesh, elections that are free and fair have been in the minority. Many times elections have been stage managed, but the Bangladeshi people have shown that when given the chance to freely elect their leadership, they can surprise people. I mean, this was certainly the case in 1991, following the end of the Ershad period, when the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and the Jamaat-e-Islami in coalition came to power when most people had expected that the Awami League would win. Now, because Bangladesh's electoral system is first past the post, the ultimate result depends on what happens in 300 separate constituencies. And any type of polling has to take this into account. So there have been some public opinion polls that show that the Bangladesh Nationalist Party still has the largest amount of support, with the Bangladesh Jamaat-Islami fairly close behind. But a lot of people have said that they're undecided. So I think this will be a competitive election. A lot will depend on the candidates that are put forward, the campaigns that they run. And we're only starting to see the beginnings of that as the parties announce their candidates. The leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the acting chairperson, Tariq Rahman, the son of Begum Khalida Zia and the Shahid General Zia Rahman, um, are going to he's going to return on December 25th on Qaidi Azam's birthday, and he will then take charge of his party and lead it into the elections. So a lot depends on what happens in the campaign. I think what's still most likely is that the Bangladesh Nationalist Party will have a plurality and will be able to form a government. But the Bangladesh Jamaat Islami is showing surprising strength, and most people anticipate that it will do better than it has in previous elections. So, we'll wait and see what the election results bring. But I think that the chances are that we're going to have a competitive election with large turnout. And regardless of which party wins, we'll see a number of new faces, which will be a good thing for Bangladesh's democracy.
Definitely, it's going to be a new thing and it's going to be a refreshing thing, hoping that the relations with all neighboring countries become good. This region breathes and it sees peace. But one last thing before we leave is Usman Hadi. Who was Usman Hadi? How it was, what kind of sentiment we've discussed already, but I really want that you can, because I was going through your timeline, you've spoken about him at length, so we'd like you to say a few words, even here on Pagbanla Connect, regarding him and anything you want to tell about him.
Sure. So I never met Osman Hadi. And as I have gotten to learn more about him through his writings, through videos, through the recollections of his friends, I regret that I never met him because he seemed to have lived an extraordinary life, not just since August 2024 or during the July Revolution, but even before that. He was a unique individual who was motivated by ideas and ideals as much as anything else. Um, Even though he was part of a broad student movement, he didn't choose to lead to join the National Citizens Party with many of his fellow activists. He struck his own path, forming this Inquilab Mancho. Um, he chose to compete in an election in a very competitive constituency against very established politicians. So he was not one to take the easy way. He was a man of the people. Um, Maybe one of the reasons why he was targeted was because he was so accessible and is that way, vulnerable. He was a builder. He was not somebody to just break things down. He wanted to build Bangladesh 2.0, and he was very focused on what it means to be a Bangladeshi, Bangladesh's national identity, how Bangladesh relates to other countries, to its religion, its history, the aspirations of its people. And he was one to inspire ones. He was a prolific speaker and writer, and in many ways prophesied his own death and made it clear that while none of us are guaranteed any certain amount of time on Earth, what's most important is the legacy we leave behind. And if you look at the photograph behind me, those who snuffed out his life, who took his life from us, um, what they've done is they've only amplified his voice. You can kill one Hadi, but 1,000 Hadis will rise up, in the wake. And I think he will continue to motivate the people of Bangladesh, including in this coming election cycle. And his ideas will live on. And again, in some ways, even be amplified because of his tragic and short life.
Right. And yes, absolutely. He's a great guy. I happened to speak to one of his very close friends, and just 3 hours before his death. And now, when I'm telling you that, I'm having goosebumps because she was talking about her 10 months old boy while mentioning he had 10 months old daughter, which we saw in pictures as well. It's very, very sad because being a young leader who's that vibrant, who was able to, connect the youth and masses and was really looking to bring Bangladesh tall, make Bangladesh tall in the comedy of nations further, seeing a developed we're seeing it developed in this huge big world. An unfortunate assassination was done. We're very sad for Usman Hadi. There's this tiny tribute from Pagbanla Connect that we chose that we're going to go and speak with John. Unfortunately, none of us met him, but truly speaking, both of us, I guess, John, we share the same sentiment because after listening about him from his friends, his colleagues, the people who've seen him, the people who've joined him, the kind of passion, vibrance, and resilience he had, I'm pretty sure that it's our loss that we were not able to meet him. But rest in power, Usman Hadi, and we wish that your daughter and bereaved family may, be at ease. It's not easy, of course, but then, of course, our best wishes, our prayers, our hopes, our love is with you. So thank you so much, John, for sparing your precious moments today as well for Park with Luck Connect. We definitely request you to keep giving us time as we discussed previously when you were here in Islamabad. And we really would want to do our bit because the relationship between Pakistan and Bangladesh in particular that started improving since last year, 2024, I'm saying, is something that we're really looking forward to and we really wish that it happens. And again, as I always say at the end, that we wish that this region breeds and we have peace. And of course, when we talk about peace, it's about all the people. And I'd agree to John when he says that nuance is really not a thing when we talk about social media, but at least those people who are making policies, those people who are involved, those people who are in the top cadres will definitely think about peace in this region and the world. Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure having you. Before we leave, a few words in Urdu. पाक बंगला कनेक्ट आप लोगों का बहुत शुक्रिया उस्मान हादी के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा मोहब्बत दुआ सल्यूट और पाक बंगला दोस्ती जिंदाबाद. Thanks, John. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Sadia.